Relics were in the dealership.
Actually, those like over the years accumulated.
Oh, these are.
Yeah, kind of neat. Not perfect, but they look good on the wall.
Oh, yeah, that's a neat old one there. My Lord. I'm surprised well, this is like a museum in here. I was gonna say, surprised the museum don't want to put this. That's so cool. It's still, oh, they had it packaged up, had the door frame hanging out of it. That's how they handled them.
This was an overseas delivery. So what they did is put it on the boat and brought it up from port, because if it would have come to the dealership would have washed the cosmetic out down over.
These factory markings, like, must be where they, something to do with testing or marking the fittings. Like when they maybe finish bolting together.
All the hoses, everything on the side. This one,
Is this guy going to drive it or just keep it? He needs to just keep it. Yeah, the old alarms.
When it went to
oh, it's got a Mercedes logo on it.
When it went to be cleaned up and detailed, I had it waxed.
This is cool.
Nobody knew what that was.
They did. Well, that's how you turn the alarm on and off. Yeah. Yeah, you had to drill a hole right in your fender and stick that big old key out there, and it was an ugly thing. But these things are, I've got a few cars that have been restored. You know, we're restoring them, and they got these all tied into the wiring systems, and that's aggravation. Well, they really tied them in, all the different, whatever you did, open the hood or the door, and they butchered up the wiring, hooking them in sometimes.
And it's been blended. You can see the dryness. It's got a big blend mark coming through.
And you look real close, it looks like a leather texture. That's all those little islands of paint with a crack going around it. They finally will pop open, and it gets flaky and it's come off. So usually this was probably air dry primer, air dry lacquer, and they just degrade with time. And you can't, anything you put on top of it usually speeds up the cracking.
So it's going to open it up?
Yeah, make it worse. The top coat, when it goes on there, the chemicals can go in them little cracks, and then it could curl up right while you wetted it down, or it may, as it dries, when the surface gets tight, it could pull them apart. And it could lay on top of them, but it's still, it's underneath it. So it's like pouring concrete on top of mud. Eventually it's going to break.
This was
the top
done
coat.
30 years ago.
Yeah, so it was just air dry stuff. Yeah, it needs to be sanded off of there because anything you put on top of it's going to make it worse. It might hold up to a little buffing, but this little blend line might be where they've already gone through a little bit, or maybe it had another little dust in the paint right here. It looks like maybe they might have scratched it putting this on, and they had to put a second blend right here. Try to see how much body fill there might be in.
Mike, if this was your car, what would you do?
First I'd try it, see if you could buff it, see if you can make it just look okay. But then you have to take this stuff off. What will eventually happen, since this is a metallic color, and where all these little patterns, like I said, leather, they look like leather patterns. All those little lines, where each one of those starts folding, they'll tilt the metallic up, and you'll start seeing a wrinkled effect with the metallic edges coming up. So if you cleared over top of this, you can almost look down and draw lines around all them little cracks, even though they're tiny, tiny. What happens with lacquer, and they probably melted this down after they sprayed it. Looks like I can see where they backmasked it right here. They tried to just spray a blend, and this was a technique we were taught. For whatever, it saved a little bit of effort, but they had see this kind of lacquer melted with chemical. You could melt it and it just become fluid again. So you dust it out there, and when it looked like you had your clear out, you could take this final coating of a real slow drying solvent with a little bit of clear in it, and you could spray it over the whole thing and then melt it down flat. It reduced the amount of buffing you had to do. It was called a blending agent. I can see a straight line going down here where their paper, they had masking paper covering this up, and they tried to dust the color up here. This was probably the edge of the color then. And then they used that melting agent, and that actually cracked this other lacquer. This was probably, some of this was just your factory paint. Yeah, it's so I wouldn't, well, you can't fix that. That's already cracked, it's gone bad, but buffing it would probably make it look less noticeable, and then you wouldn't have to get into anything. But when you buff it, see that lacquer that's on there is paper thin, or thinner than paper, you know. So if you happen to go through, then you're gonna have to do it. And it might go through. You have no way of knowing. Once you put compound on there, start polishing it. If it's real vapor thin, like it might be in this area here where this line is, it might crack real fast, but it's one of the things you got to try it to find out. And it might survive enough. The guy that's buying it might say,
well, it'd be nice if we didn't have to do paint work, you know, and could save it, because it's a shame to have to put more paint on this car.
yeah, if not, I would just take the trunk off the car and remove all the paint from the top of it, and we do it mechanically on the, maybe they didn't go down very far on this side here. These cracks are coming all the way down here though. Yeah, they're cracking in here. They're cracking and it stops right like that. So that's just their
What was interesting, when I got this car back from them, they didn't touch the pin striping on this. The other side came back without the tape on, and I put it on myself.
Yeah, you can see there's no clear in between the stripes. In between that little piece in there,
Okay.
you see they put masking tape over your stripe, like 1/4 inch masking tape, and they sprayed on both sides of the stripe. In between there, your factory coating still is nice. It's not cracked.
Interesting.
You can actually see the paint. There's right at the end of the dark color, there's a little raised lip. That's where they pulled the tape off. And your paint went down and settled on that edge. It made a little shelf. I can see it all the way down here. And they did it on the bottom side too. You can still see where surface tension curled the edge up. But looking straight in here, you can see at the middle in there doesn't have any of that clear.
Yeah, now that you're saying that.
So they just left it on there and painted over it. Just some overspray in there when they didn't mask it off. That's overspray from the edges. They sprayed it with the door on. They didn't mask it off. But lacquer was good for that. It'd blow in there and dried so fast it didn't really stick very good. But also, people just didn't care much. They just in a hurry to do it fast. So if we took it down and sand it and then give it a buff to see how much we got out, if it's starting to improve, we could try it again and watch real close for when we're sanding. Sometimes you can see when a ring like this would start showing up. That's the danger. Once you've gone through, you're done. So you'd have to make the decision, like, we're going to paint the whole thing, but if you can not do it, we'd try it once and see if we can make this live. And then you'd have to, if we get it down so far, we might decide let's not try it anymore and see if you want to make a judgment call. With lacquers, sometimes the heat of the buffer will actually help reflow it. It's a thermal reactive and chemical reactive product that you can reflow it. The old time lacquers, I had paint refs that demonstrate how fast a lacquer thinner will melt lacquer. And they said, just try to drop it on there and see how fast you can wipe it off and see if it doesn't affect it. And you can't wipe it off fast enough. And you drop it on there, it will at least turn it dull, and as soon as it hits. But if you leave it on there, it will remelt it. You can use lacquer thinner and just turn this back to liquid. Easy to use, and because I grew up when we had to use enamels all the time, and man, when acrylic lacquers came out, that was a blessing for repairs. It was fast, easy, and dried fast, air dried really fast. Yeah, I can see this other line here is perfect where they back match this right here. They're just trying to keep their color back here.
Is this something you're comfortable with messing with, Mike?
Yeah, I would gladly try to save it and see if we could do that and just make it, and it'll depend on the guy that's wanting to buy it. Has he seen this already?
He's been out here, he's seen it.
What's he thinking? Is he really hating
he's seen it inside the building, and it bothers him. It's not as noticeable outside, but under fluorescence. But it'd be nice if we could make it look good and keep it the way it is without having to put more paint on it.
Yeah, I can agree.